Robert, I want to talk about Luke Shaw because I think he's been one of Manchester United's most important and probably most consistent defender this season. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of criticism on Luke Shaw, and I think he has had tough times of late at Manchester United. Last season, he was out most of it from injury, but this season he started it fantastically well. And I've compared, I'm going to compare him to Van Dijk and look at some stats. But immediately, I think Luke Shaw's a player who has come on a massive sort of personal comeback, and a player who I thought he was finished at Manchester United, a player that was on, I think, 200 grand a week, wasn't playing much football. But I think this season has been a huge testament for himself. Now, again, I think on a personal basis for him, he wants to get into that World Cup squad. I mean, remember that season before the Euros, Euro 2020, when Luke Shaw was unplayable. Everyone was calling him Shawberto Carlos. Now, this season, I think he's actually done very, very well. He's played every single game, or he started every single game for Manchester United. The only player to do so. He's played the most minutes by quite a bit out of all the Manchester United players. And for a player who last season was struggling to stay fit, he's obviously worked hard. And I think he's been very, very important. And at times there has been a lot of combos in that back three. It's been Shaw, De Ligt, Maguire, Shaw, like all the combos that has been in our last game. It was Shaw, Euro and Heaven, relatively inexperienced back three. And I think Shaw, as someone who's been massively experienced in this team, I think he's someone who definitely in terms of reviewing his season has been very, very good. Now let's look some of his stats this season. Now, again, firstly, actually, I want to say he's someone who's really rated by Ruben Amorim. He talked about Shaw being the professional that he is, and I think Amorim really, really does rate Luke Shaw. I mean, you wouldn't start a player if you didn't rate him the amount of times that he is, and that doesn't come down to having options, because even when Martinez has been coming on, it hasn't been more time for Luke Shaw. So, yeah, I think Martinez is, I think Shaw is someone who's very rated by the manager, and you can see that in the way in which he's starting him and the way that he's giving him that trust, and I think he has been someone who's been very, very important to this team. So, yeah, very, very happy with Luke Shaw. Now, you look at some of his stats this season, but obviously we look at the progressive passes first, because as a centre back in a back three, Ruben Amorim is obviously wanting you to play progressive passes. Now, he averages 1.46 progressive passes per game. That is the 92 percentile. Now, if you look at Van Dijk in progressive passes, 0.3. So he's miles better than Van Dijk at making those progressive passes through. And I didn't think that was a strength of Luke Shaw's sort of game, really. I thought Luke Shaw, when I watch him, it doesn't really seem like he's making that many progressive passes, but certainly these are the ones that Ruben Amorim looks at as linking lines, and Martinez is very good at doing that. And obviously by the stats and by the metrics and by watching Luke Shaw, you can see that he's really good at doing that as well. In terms of another stat here, we look at progressive carries. Shaw is one of the best at doing it. I think this is one of his best assets. Even when he was playing at left back all those seasons ago, I think it was a 2021 season where he was absolutely fantastic. He scored that brilliant goal at Man City, I remember. And he's been very, very good at doing that. In terms of progressive carries, 1.68, which again, 96th percentile. Virgil van Dijk, 0.84. So again, so far the stats are on sort of Shaw side. I know he's not better than Van Dijk, but in terms of stats wise, Van Dijk's averaging 0.84 progressive carries. Now look at progressive passes, which is similar to progressive passes. Now let's look at the defensive sort of side of it. Tackles 1.86 per 90, 76th percentile. You look at Van Dijk, 0.73. Now that could be one thing. Liverpool obviously not really. I know they haven't been great this season, but does Van Dijk really need to make tackles? I think particularly I've highlighted that one game, the Brighton game was the game where I thought Luke Shaw was very aggressive. He had a very good part to play in terms of being high, in terms of high press, high energy, winning the ball back, and good recovery. So, yeah, I think Luke Shaw, someone for me who has, stats wise, and also watching him, I've watched all United games this season, and he's done very, very well. So, yeah, I think Shaw, someone who massively has helped, and I think his tackles have been very, very good. Now, in terms of aerial duels won now, Van Dijk obviously being the size that he is, he's won 3.94, which again, 97th percentile. Luke Shaw, 1.46. So that is a weakness of Luke Shaw, you can say, aerially. I think no doubt he's one of the best on the ball, and that comes from him obviously playing at left back and having a lot of time. But obviously Van Dijk, he's one of the best at winning that. And I think Shaw, there hasn't been many times this season where I feel like he's been caught out in terms of aerial duels, but I think that's definitely a weakness on Luke Shaw's. Another one would be interceptions. He's averaging 0.93 interceptions per game, 1.1 blocks. But what I want to say on an overall of Luke Shaw, on a personal matter, it is brilliant to see him playing. we know on his day, and how many players have we said on their day can be one of the best in the world. But I do certainly think Luke Shaw is one of the best left backs in the world. So yeah, I think we certainly have to give him his credit and respect him, because he has had a difficult time of it. And you look at the minutes played this season, um, by players. You look at Luke Shaw, 1,555 minutes played. You look at Bruno, played 1,477, and obviously Bruno's been injured for a while. But again, he's someone who's been massively important for this team, and the way in which Ruben Amorim is trying to build. So it'd be interesting to see when Martinez does get back to full fitness. Does Shaw potentially go out to left back if we are playing a back four? Um, Again, he was there in the last game. Would he be there again? We'll have to wait and see. But I think Shaw, someone who again has come on leaps and bounds. We know the player, we know the potential. We've seen it a long time at United. But again, I think he's had a great season, and hopefully he can continue going, because listen, good performances for him benefits him, but also benefits Manchester United. It gives us sort of a better way of playing, but also allows him to potentially get into that England squad, because that's obviously something that he wants to do to get into the World Cup. And I think it's definitely personal ambition. I think it's definitely realistic. I definitely think Luke Shaw can get into that sort of squad. Not with ease, obviously. They have top players. Livramento, Lewis Hall's done very, very well. Who was Dan Burn. So there are Nico O'Reilly. So there are a lot of good left backs out there in the league, but it's down to Luke Shaw to continue playing, which he's doing at the moment, staying fit, and I think he can massively help the team. I do think he is on a lot of wage and shouldn't be on that, but I think in terms of his personal performances and reviewing his season, I think he has been very, very well and very comfortable at what he's doing. So yeah, shout out Luke Shaw. I think it's been a great sort of season for him on a personal, and yeah, there has been times over the last few years where he struggled and he's not done very, very well. But yeah, he's done fantastically well in the last few games, and the sort of quality and leadership that I think you've needed from Luke Shaw in the last few games, I think he stepped up, and yeah, we know the quality that he has. So big up Luke Shaw.